All right, what's up, guys? Okay, actually, this is my first stream ever, so no face reveal yet. But today we're just gonna be watching some YouTube. Wait, Nick 830, Nick. All right. Watch a movie. I don't want to get
Hardee's Barbecue Pulled Pork Frisco
Why?
Burger is
I
back
hate
in
ads.
just $5.99.
Like, guys,
It's got that
what are with all the
appetite
ads?
appeal. Absolutely.
All right. Wait, no, I'm gonna go watch.
That's cool.
I think he posted a video. I've already watched that on my other. Wait. Trust. Wait a minute. This is my first time going live, so I actually don't know how to do anything like check chat and stuff. So hold on. I've watched all of these, so let's just watch this one.
Fortnite just revealed a lost chapter full of canceled skins, collabs, POIs, and even vehicles like Bart's skateboard, because what released as a back bling and emote could have been a rideable hoverboard. This is a canceled mythic that wouldn't just let you ride around and boost from poles, but it also transformed into a weapon, letting you hit enemies in the face and even throw it at them. Now, this lost chapter gets crazier because the entire Simpsons Island was supposed to be different. Here is the official concept art for Simpsons, and you're looking at a floating map, just like Kevin's Island from Chapter 1. Honestly, I'm really glad they didn't go with this. It made Springfield feel way better in the actual season. But if you zoom in, you'll notice some insane ideas that never made it. Like a monorail, inspired by that one episode where they built one in Springfield. Plus, the giant Homer on the map is wearing clothes. Here's a closer look at this, and as you can see, it looks like Homer walking around was actually meant to be a thing that happened in-game rather than the live event. And then for some reason, I guess they realized they could just have him in underwear. But some people think we're looking at a scrap boss fight here, and honestly, that could have been incredible. But everyone's gonna be devastated when they see what weapons we missed out on, because look at the 0-point remote. Early concept show, it was more than just part of the story. It could have been the most powerful item in Fortnite history. This would shoot donuts, use pizza as a shield, trap players in food, or transform props into launch pads. There was one idea where it could just straight up pause bullets in time and then just send them straight back to the guy who shot him. Maybe a bit too ambitious, and that's why it didn't make it to the final game, but I don't know why Fortnite deleted the donut launcher. This looked like an RPG that fired cluster bombs, and now I'm realizing Fortnite actually didn't cancel this. In fact, you're actually using this gun right now in Chapter 7 because it's the 7's canon. Sadly though, we never got a chance to use the Gamma Ray gun. Take a look at this thing. It was gonna make you or even cars fly while also being used as a weapon. They even include the scenes this is a reference to in all of the concept art, which I think just shows the passion Epic put into the season. Now, we've always wanted more cartoony weapons in Fortnite, so imagine how I feel realizing we could have had a cheeseball minigun. This would have been so good. Or if you wanted a shotgun version, they were thinking of one that you reloaded with Krusty O's cereal. They were cooking in the art department here. We had popcorn guns, donut shotties, and a squishy cannon that lay slide around like Frozone. So you probably remember how we got Maggie in the game, but only as a glider. And well, she was originally going to be a back bling. As you could probably guess, they didn't want enemies shooting at a baby, so it got scrapped.
Picked a great main, but your voice doesn't quite match it?
We have a fix.
Voice mod gives you over 150.
And that wasn't the only thing they tweaked, because the power plant basically collapsed, but it wasn't as dramatic as this concept art. And if you zoom in, you could see a giant blinky fish that just never made it to the game. The plant meltdown was also going to give us a brand new Chug Jug that was radioactive, giving us a temporary mega shield, and I gotta say, that's a really good idea. And I'm not kidding when I say there's an entire chapter's worth of scrap content in this video, because wait until you see as tight and claustrophobic, which is way more intense for a bug invasion. Most of the season was gonna be underground. and the bug holes could be straight up bombed by driving explosive cars into them. As you can see, the vibe of this season originally wasn't Helldiver style. If anything, from this artwork, you can see a more post-apocalyptic kind of feel with hazmat suits and everything. Plus, the POI felt more like an infestation than what we got. Epic seriously thought extra hard about the life of the bugs. They designed entire reproductive cycles for them, showing how you would squish them. They would regenerate inside eggs and come back in the very same match, forcing you to go after the eggs themselves to stop it. Plus, you could spot early designs for the bugs here, including some scrap versions. There were tons of them that were meant to live underground and could pop out to jump scare you like this millipede. Kind of horrifying, and it looks like this guy ended up being turned into the roly-poly instead.
Yeah.
So maybe just too ambitious. If you remembered this season, you might recall an old leak about a supposed goo gun that was coming and then just never arrived. Well, now we have our official first look at what it was gonna do. It was actually a slime shooter that sucks up eggs, turns them into goo, and fires to create trampolines. The whole thing is inspired by the game Slime Rancher, which could be one reason it never came out, considering it was in the files but never dropped. Now, did you know Fortnite was gonna drop a Karen skin? The Bug Battle Pass was gonna have this woman. And when you call 911 and there's no manager to speak to, Karen will solve the problem herself. It might be one of the funniest skin ideas I've ever seen, but I can see why Epic probably said no to this one. She would have been joined by a generic dad who is an everyday normal guy that likes to wash the car after running over some bugs with it. As you can see by these two people, it's more evidence Fortnite was trying to go with a suburban apocalypse theme at the start, and then they tried to make it Helldivers instead. We were going to have insane features like riding them, using them as a launch pad, and this strange anti-air turret that parachuted down from the sky and fired at bugs. Even the Hammerhead Chopper was originally going to be way different. This is the Mantis Squadron helicopter, and it was meant to carry buildings and give air support. Of course, it eventually transformed into a regular heli, but imagine how cool it would have been to call in reinforcements. You can see even more of these early designs in the original Season 4 concept art, showing them running from bugs and firing at them, with some players getting kidnapped. By far the coolest feature was going to be a totally different boss fight. We were going to be in the underground hives battling the queen here, using scrap weapons like some kind of shockwave hammer, and my personal favorite is a bug zapper. Megazord was also going to have way more content because this is an early design for the Rita Repulsa supply drops that eventually turned into meteors during Megazord's fight. Sadly, we also never got to use guns that were in the files but didn't release, like the EMP pistol and Bug Hunter dualies. Personally though, I'm kind of glad they scrapped this emote.
Oh, hell no!
What is
I mean, people were just not a fan of the dance or the remix, so it never came out. But they were a little sad that we never got the Biggie emote though. And so as we keep moving through Fortnite Scrap Chapter, the Star Wars season also had some ridiculous cut content. One skin was genuinely the biggest missed opportunity I've ever seen. First, there was an entire POI that never made it, where the Empire was going to take over the water treatment plant. And while it looks really cool, not exactly the most exciting drop spot we've ever seen. From the concepts, the EE POI was going to look way different. And personally, I love the final result with the secret cave you could shoot at with the AT-AT. It might be a rare example of scrap content that ended up better in the end. But wait until you find out what Epic's employees are making when you're not looking. Sometimes the concepts get extra fun and they make stuff like this, Vader Peely. The developer who made this said it was a joke concept while they were working on the season, but imagine what other hilarious ideas they come up with that we never get to see. But luckily, we do get to see what they originally had planned for Fortnitemares. Ultima Carver was going to play a much larger role, to the point where as pumpkins around the map, we're going to have all kinds of emotions, and we're even bouncy, letting you rail grind on the vines. Plus, he would have had his own giant POI, which honestly looks insanely cool. But you can see why Fortnite didn't put all of this effort into a location that was only for Halloween. Restored Reels is a rare example of a concept that genuinely turned out true to life. They cut basically no corners with it. So as we continue with the Scrap Fortnite chapter, we've almost made our way to chapter 7, but first we got to talk about the Marvel season. Because it turns out Fortnite went all in on this one, and no detail was spared. Cynthia Von Doom could have had her own courtyard POI that looked insane and linked with Doom's castle, but it got downgraded to some random statue in the forest instead. Whereas these Stark Armory pods are pretty much one-to-one between concept and final, other than the fact they removed all of these amazing Iron Man suits. Plus, there's a POI in the background that never made it to the season, so was it going to be a Stark Industries base? And in the Rec season, you're already familiar with the grainy concept art from the roadmap, the one we all saw that looks straight out of Mad Max. As you know, that train never made it to the season, and we started to doubt if it was even planned in the first place. Well, I'm here to tell you right now that it's real, and this is the Wastelander train. It looks even more beautiful up close. You're telling me this thing had turrets, a spinning blade on the front, and a jeep you could shoot from?
Why?
You'll never know why this wasn't added, but honestly, it hurts to see what could have been. There was also going to be a completely different version of the drivable battle bus. This is what we ended up with, but originally it was going to look like this for the Wasteland. It is way more Mad Max style than we expected, and in fact, there was an earlier version you could see in this artwork that shows the battle bus with claw arms. There was even going to be a way to dock our cars to a ship like the one at Brutal Beachhead and drive around with it. Maybe they just decided to make this thing 10 times bigger and turn it into a POI instead. Plus, this was a season that we got a huge UI makeover, and while what we ended up with is decent, the original concept looked way smoother and interactive. It felt more like a rift, which actually ties together the themes of Fortnite and made all the modes seem like you were jumping into different rifts. Honestly, I hope they find a way to do it again. And now we have officially made it. It's time to explore the lost media of Chapter 7. Because the biggest feature when this came out was, of course, storm surfing. Our first time ever dropping on the island without a battle bus. But did you know it was originally going to be a part of the map? What I mean by this is how instead of dropping through the waves, it was going to straight up replace the storm instead. So when the circle closes in, you would jump onto the waves, surf to the next storm circle, and be able to shoot players while you did it. It was probably a complete headache to get working and was easier to turn into the intro instead, but imagine how cool it would have been to have a storm that doesn't kill you, but takes you with it. So now that Fortnite's laid off 1,000 developers, basically putting the whole of 2026 in jeopardy, we know that maps like K-Zone Commons from Ballistic are never coming out. The entire mode is getting deleted soon, and this unfinished map is going to be lost to time. We also know that Fortnite was originally going to team up with the biggest musical of the year for Chapter 7.
Still good.
Game's too hard. 30 hours in.
No.
Wicked was gonna come to the game with its very own collab, but for some reason, it fell through and has been canceled. And a lot of fans were extra shocked to hear that Rocket Racing is getting deleted. If you said this a year ago when the mode was abandoned, it wouldn't be surprising. But just recently, we found out that Epic were working on a new racetrack that was Star Wars themed, letting you pod race each other. Something we'll never see now. Something scrapped from this season was a gun for Squibbly in Chapter 7. This is the Inky pistol, and while we don't have many details, I can only assume it would cover enemy screens in ink when you shot them, similar to the ink in Mario Kart. And I don't even want to get into the future of Fortnite Festival, because pretty much everyone working on this mode has been laid off. And jam tracks that were meant to come out this week never dropped. We've also seen the deletion of Battle Stage. Jam tracks that were meant.
Okay. I barely know half of these. I know Travis Scott, Huntrix, Kendrick Lamar, Eminem. Wait, no, I don't know that one. Yeah, I really just know the first four, not gonna lie.
To come out this week never dropped. We've also seen the deletion of Battle Stage, and probably would have watched the whole mode vanish if it never had a battle pass. So with that in mind, you could probably imagine that jam tracks are gonna stop releasing. And that means songs like Fiend, Golden, Not Like Us, and Stay are never coming out even though they were in the works. Did you know the Arc Lightning Gun from last season originally looked like this? It was way more futuristic and was even gonna have a special reload animation. But it's time to talk about Fortnite Showdown, because according to insiders, this was originally a Norse mythology season last year, and then they changed plans and converted it into the grand return of the storyline. But there is still signs of what used to be, with the crew pack from last month teasing a Nordic theme, plus the amount of effort put into the ice biome compared to the other POIs. Fortnite was also working on some early versions of the Flowberry Mist before it dropped, with the original ideas being a Sprint Mist and a Spicy Mist. And it became the item we use today. With the Lulu also gone, you'll never get to play with an exclusive item that was going to show up called the Disguise. It was a frisbee that you could throw at people and it would change their appearance mid-match. Maybe you recruited someone from a different team and they wanted to hide, not really sure what the purpose was, but still, it had nothing on an entire mode that was meant to drop in 2026. because Fortnite was working on an extraction game.
come
We've talked a ton
on.
about it throughout the last couple of months. If there was any hope before, it's gone, thanks to the layoffs, shutdowns, and the fact that Epic's secret creator tests were for the arena's box fight instead. Understand that some of this was probably impossible to make, or too ambitious, or maybe it just didn't make sense. It doesn't mean all of these were 100% coming, but it just shows the early concept of Fortnite and its lost chapter. But Tommy, keep it here on Top 5 Gaming.
All right, guys. I will be back. Okay, I'm watching this next. Adding war to Minecraft. Yeah, we're not watching that. All right, guys. I'll see you later. Don't forget. Okay, I have to work. This is my first stream. Don't hate, please. Don't hate. I have never went live before. So if there's any problem with the stream, don't hate. Just tell me in the comments. All right, bye guys. Use code Nick830 in item shop. Bye.